and in this video I would like to show you something about tests in Aries JavaScript framework. What types of tests we have and how to run them and how to use them. First, let's start with end-to-end tests. As you can see, we have two tests in here in credentials test. So this is actually end-to-end test for the credential exchange. The first test is just about issuing credential offer to Alice, and the second is about accepting the credential offer and then issuing the credential itself to Alice and accepting that credential by Alice. Before I will explain what's in these two tests, let's look around the code we need to write to set up this test. So in this file we have two agents, so we need to have two configs for them. The first one is Faber as an issuer, and we need to set some public DID to this agent. And the second one is holder called Alice. Before we start writing tests for credential exchange, we need to, of course, create instance of both agents, and we need to register schema, credential definition, and make a connection between these two agents. So let's start with the first test in here. Here I assume that there is a connection which I created by this line, and then I just issue credential to this connection, which I assume is the connection with Alice. The second step is actually checking whether Alice has some credential, and to do this I am using this polling mechanism, because the credential exchange is actually, or the message exchange is actually asynchronous and it's in the background. So I need to have some mechanism how to wait for this update. We don't have to do it with the polling mechanism. We can use some event emitter, and I will show you later more about that, but it's not the topic of this video. So let's move to the expect command, where I just check whether the credential which Alice got is if it contains expected attributes and if it's in offer received state. Then I have the second test, which is dependent on the first one, and because this is end-to-end test, I don't mind that. I don't see it's a problem. So here I assume that there is some credential. There is credential on both sides, and then Alice agent accept the credential. Then I have same mechanism as in the previous test, like similar polling mechanism, but right now I'm checking if the credential record is in done state on both sides. And at the end I just check whether there are like expected attributes in given credential, in any given credential. And as you can see, I check just if there is any number or any object and that type of stuff, because this is end-to-end test, so I don't care so much about details. I just need to check like the higher level functions are working. And now let's move to the terminal, and I will show you how to run the test. Just before I move to the terminal, I would like to show you our README, where you can see some setup of the ledger, because I mentioned that you need a ledger to run these tests. So we have prepared some nice commands, some utility Docker commands in here. So first you need to build in the pool image, then run in the pool container, And what's important in here that you need also do some setup of the ledger and create public DID there with the seed. And as you can see in here, as you will see, yeah, in the command line, not in here, I need to pass this seed into this environment variable, and then run the test with this environment variable configuration. Here we are using just runner, so you can filter test by name, and you can see I care about credentials, which is the same as it's in here. So if I run it, you can see it takes some time, but you know, we need to connect to the ledger. We need to register schema and credential definition, and we need to do that credential, let that message exchange during these two tests. So you can see that it passes. So that's great. Maybe you could see some, you know, results in here during the script. That was because we also by this credential, you know, credential name, we also run credentials service test, which is a unit test. So it's kind of fast, and I don't mind that it's running all together with this end-to-end test. But what I care about the most in here, that I need to check these two tests mainly. And you can see it took about 15 seconds. It's not so fast, but I think it's good enough because we don't mock almost anything in these two. I think anything in these two tests. Okay, now let's move to the second type of test, which is unit test. And that unit test is actually credential service test. So that's the test we run. You know, all together with the end-to-end test. But right now I can run just credential service test, and you can see I'm not passing any environment variables. And if I run it, you can see it's pretty fast. So, you know, under 3 seconds. So it's way better than end-to-end test. And yeah, that's about how to run the test. But maybe I will explain a little bit about how I write these tests and when I write these tests. Because you can see actually that this is not service method, this is module method. So I usually start with this test. I write this test first, then it's failing, you know, but I go and I implement these. I start the implementation of these module methods or handlers for particular message type if it's necessary or if it's needed. And while I am doing that, I don't write unit tests for these two layers, but when I write when I need some credential service method in here, I just go to the credential service test and I write the test for this particular method. And I'm, you know, running. I write test. Then I write implementation, and I'm running this and unit test all the time during the implementation. And yeah, I'm adding these methods, you know, the first one, second one, and so on until I'm done. And when I'm done, I just run this end-to-end test, and if it passes, I can, you know, commit the code and submit pull request. Okay, so maybe, yeah, I think that's kind of all about about the testing and how to run various type of tests. What's important to know that for end-to-end test you need to have ledger running, and you need to set this public DID. But for unit test, you just you can mock a lot of stuff around and run it kind of quickly in the terminal just by filtering the test by name. Okay, thank you for attention, and maybe see you next time when I could explain you more about maybe about the unit test process or about the architecture of the framework. So see you later. Bye.